Hey, Drew, guess what?
What?
We're in an advertisement.
Well, that is neat.
Anchor has asked us to help advertise the platform we use for this very podcast.
Using Anchor has made it really easy for us to distribute our podcast across almost every streaming service and has helped us grow to the point we're at now.
Yeah, thanks, Anchor. You're the best.
If you have any questions about using Anchor, please reach out to us. We'd love to share our personal experience with you and help you get started doing your own podcast.
All right, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Good Bottle Podcast. Join Chris and Drew, two self-proclaimed booze pundits with a lifetime of industry experience as they walk you through the alcohol business and how today's headlines affect the industry. Each week, the guys will be joined by a special guest that will help them break down these stories and offer their own expertise to the podcast. So, pour yourself a glass of your favorite drink and sit back. This is the Good Bottle Podcast.
What is up, everybody? I am Chris Sinclair, and I am beyond excited for tonight. I have been waiting for this moment for a very long time, and I'm going to beat Drew to the punch here because he usually does his part, and I'm going to do it first because that's what happens when you get to speak first. I'm going to fanboy out real hard tonight. The guest that we are getting ready to speak to has been an icon of the industry and someone that I have I've been following their career very closely since I got into the mixology game and since I was a bartender. And I got to tell you, I have made an ass of myself more than a few times at their bar in the bravado of youth. And you know what? I've learned from it. And thank God he didn't know who I was at that point in time. Anyway, Drew, how are you doing?
I'm good, fellow co-host Chris Sinclair. So you really took a lot of my thunder away. I was gonna actually bury the lead a little bit, and I was gonna talk about how this past weekend I cooked on my big green egg, and I feel like I'm ready for that part of my life where barbecuing becomes a big part of my personality.
I'm ready for that to be part of your life as well.
Yeah, always changing it up, always keeping people guessing. Like, what is Drew into? Is it Batman? Is it spirits? Is it barbecuing? It's going to be like all of the above, guys. All of the above. So, you'll have a lot of things to cover at my funeral. But aside from that, and actually just to be clear, I do not want that to be part of my personality. Like, I've seen those guys, and I already have enough of those traits when it comes to spirits. I don't want to add that to the list. So we're going to avoid that altogether. But I am also super, super excited about tonight's guest, and for a couple reasons. One, his book has been a dope follow on this show. One of his articles that he wrote has also been a topic on this show. So he's actually kind of like a multi-time guest, even though he had no idea that he was a multi-time guest. He is the writer of one of my all-time favorite spirit books, By the Smoke and the Smell. Our guest tonight is Thad Vogler. Thad, we're rolling out the red carpet. We're excited that you're here. Say hello to everybody. Tell us what you're drinking. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And we're going to try to keep our fangirl in check right now.
Wow, tremendous. You really know how to make a fellow feel welcome. It's really nice to be here with you guys. I'm just stoked to be talking spirits with people that are interested in it. I think it's going to be a good hour. What I have is I was in Scotland actually last week, and we're working on an independent bottling label, just a small label to do out of our shop. And so I've got a barrel sample of Kilchoman. It's the Isla, the 100% Isla, and it's a second fill bourbon cask at about 55%. I was listening to your last couple pods, and you're talking about Scotch weather, and as much as there's Scotch weather in the Bay, I think we're having it now. So, nice pale color, not too much barrel, just getting that beautiful Isla maritime grain, and not to sound too pretentious, but just very, very, very delicious. And so this is the barrel that we picked. It turns out we bought it from your shop, Drew, which is funny. Kilchoman.
I'm so excited that because now I need to find a way to get a bottle. Obviously, the 100% Isla is my favorite series of whiskeys that come from Kilchoman. And just what makes it the 100% Isla is that Kilchoman really prides itself on being more farm than distillery, and so all the barley that they use, they actually grow themselves, and that's actually covered in your book, and you have some really great conversations with Anthony Willis as well, who's the owner of Kilhoman, and there's like some really beautiful lines in it too. Like just so you know, like my book is just like marked up and highlighted to all hell, just like of all the things I thought were interesting and stuff like that. So, you know, again, if you have like, we're getting into the holiday season. And so if you have someone in your life that's like into spirits or into like, travel, this is also a great book for that too. I just, for me, I mean, I read it a couple years after it came out, but it just was like, I just felt like it really filled a need for me. Then like this void that was like left from like good travel reading. And so, I mean, again, I came to a little bit later, but it's just really awesome. But I love the fact that you're doing the 100% Isla, and the fact that you were in Scotland to pick it too, because like all of any barrel picks that I've done with Kilhoman so far with any of my accounts, it's been like they ship the samples over. It's still really cool. It's fun to be a part of, but it's not the process of actually being at the distillery. So one of the things that we joke about on this show is getting quote unquote wineryed. And that means that when you're at the winery, you kind of fall in love with the aesthetic. You fall in love with just the entire experience. And then like you take that wine home and you're like, shit, this is not romantic in my kitchen. I don't understand why. So with that being the case, and being in such a beautiful place like Isla, and being at that distillery, I mean, when you got back, I mean, was there any trepidation when you went to crack that bottle for the first time, be like, oh my God, did we pick the right thing? Or how does that go for you?
No, man, that's such a great observation. So many times for me, like cider, whenever I'm in France, in Normandy, and I'm drinking cider and I think, God, this is so fucking good. And then I get home and open bottle and it's just like, it's bratty and dirty and it just doesn't work in San Francisco the way it does in a farm in Normandy. But I narrowed it to two barrels, came home with the samples and tasted them here for exactly that reason. And interestingly enough, the one I would have chosen there is not the one I chose here. I chose it was a first fill and a second fill bourbon, and I thought I was going to pick the first fill there. After James was there, I didn't see his dad, but yeah. So that's hilarious. That's so much a part of traveling, and especially if it's some kind of sort of rare, bizarre thing that you've never had, and you're standing by a fire or a farm or a wild or an animal or some foreign person and just feels just right. Yeah, and how it travels is a huge consideration. That's a very, very great point.
Oh, well, that's what we do here. Just nothing but great points across the board. I mean, that's
Wow.
That's why we're pros. So, in your book, like, what you travel to, you kind of break it up into, 4 different sections where you're traveling to different places, and each section is like this deep dive into that area. So where you start off, at least in the book, is in like cognac and armiacs and these different brandies, and that's just where like I immediately became immersed in the book. Like all the stuff that I thought I was going to be really excited about, like whether it be the Cuba section or the Oaxaca section, like because I look, obviously you go through your table of contents, like, ooh, I can't wait to get to this part. But like, I was so enthralled by how much time and how meticulous you guys were about your brandy decisions, because I do feel that anything that's brandy related is so undervalued in the United States. And my favorite thing to do is to get people introduced to brandy, to have them say like, oh, I didn't realize that brandy was so good. I was like, yeah, everybody loves it. They just don't know it because they don't drink it. And for whatever reason, certain brands come into prominence and ruining the category, whatever the case may be. But what was, what's the appealing thing to you that you're just kind of like, hey, not only am I gonna, I'm gonna travel this place and I'm gonna get these single barrels of these different types, but I'm also gonna write a book, and that's gonna be the first chapter, or the first section, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the trip I've done most. I think that was like the ninth or eighth or ninth year in a row I'd done that Randy trip. And the guy I go with, Charles, is hilarious, and it was fun to write about him. And kind of the most familiar. So it was familiar territory to start writing, and I think it's very indicative of what I'm interested in. I'm very Gen X, like a lot of people. I got out of school with a liberal arts degree and started, and I was bartend. I had been bartending in school and just kept bartending, and bartending led to traveling, and then that sort of nice quality of life in your 20s of always having a couple $100 in your wallet and enough to get a plane ticket, and just sort of enjoying that. And then before I realized it had been about 20 years. So I realized that this is what I'm doing. And then I started managing spaces and I started doing consulting. And that's when I started putting together inventories or taking people's inventories and trying to transform them. So that's would have been mid late 90s. And so I very much approached it like um, kind of like records, you know what I mean? Just sort of like flipping through records, and it's just like not cool, not cool, not cool, not cool, not cool, not cool, and just and sort of educating myself. I mean, it's silly because like a lot of bartenders, I spent the first 10, 15 years of my career, when someone would ask me about a bottle and I didn't really know the answer, I would just bullshit them, which was such a waste of time. I wish I'd started sooner. It's such the bar guy thing to do, bar person thing to do. Well, probably bar guy thing to do. And then when I started really picking inventories, I was sort of, first of all, it was like mid late 90s, and it was like all of the absolutes, all of the Stolies, all of the Cirocs, all of the Grey Goose, the 8 to 12 flavors of everything. It was just all anyone was drinking was vodka at that point, and it was just super unsatisfying. And there were a couple of books that were kind of in rotation, like that Wired book was out, and just slow. People were just starting to talk about dilution and stuff. At any rate, it's just very much about negative, like that, no good, no good, no good, no good, no good. And I was very sort of brand focused. So if it was like, and I know you guys spoke favorably about Bacardi recently, but if it was like Bacardi, Diageo, Remy Cointreau, Pernod Ricard, is just sort of like I had a very kind of like very Gen X, like post punk, like no, 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 no. And then I was left with like 8 bottles, so kind of had to go out and try to find stuff. And in the Bay, there's a whole kind of tradition of I'm too tired to put it any other way, but the sort of Alice Waters farm to table, like agriculturally driven kitchens, and then natural wines are starting to take off. Chocolate, coffee. There's this kind of agriculturally driven trend that's super cool, like single origin stuff, really really into it. And spirits are just kind of feeling like they're lagging behind. So the French stuff was a really good first kind of point, because these are French booze is agricultural. It's named for the agricultural region, as you know. So it became very very easy to kind of explore this stuff as agricultural products. Normandy and Armagnac, much more so. Cognac is a very like, I think we're going to talk more about it later, but that's just a fucking, whew, that's a beast right now. That's like American whiskey, basically. Like, it's a big topic, but Calvados and Armagnac, these are like people don't even have their own stills most of the time, so they're just like growing fruit. The communal still comes by, they distill it, and so yeah, just that became a place to go, like a record store I really liked. So like look for deep cuts. So I just started going to France a lot, in particular Armagnac and Calvados, and then like some smaller independent producers in Cognac too. So long answer to a short question. That's a bit of why that France really speaks to me.
No, I think that's great, and even in that section, you're talking about going to all these small producers, and you're kind of like, I bought multiple barrels from these people before, and I'm really excited about tasting this year's vintage and stuff. And then there was also a story about a guy coming into the business kind of through the family that was not passionate about it. And I think the thing that I really respected about your writing style, and something that I wish I was better at, was like it was very clear that you had, like you were not stoked on this guy at all. And then there was like times throughout the book where you kind of come back to different brands and things like that about how you're not stoked on, but like you still did it in a diplomatic way, but also very much so conveyed your feelings about it, where it was just kind of like, it's like, hey, he obviously is not into this, and it's not to say that you're, like, your book was like burning bridges or anything like that, but it was still clear. It was like, oh no, he's conveying exactly how he feels without doing what like I do, where I just like come out and just say everything right off the top, And so I think there's this really wonderful balance to that I think is really solid. And again, like, it's such a fun book. And even just the almost like the brutal nature of being on those trips, because like that was something that also resonated. And this isn't going to resonate with everybody, because not everybody goes on these booze focused trips and stuff like that. But for the ones of us who have, where you're kind of like, oh, it must be nice to go down to Oaxaca for a week. You're like, well, yes, it is. But at the same time, it's also a total ass kicker, And I think you really, and I think that's what you really captured, where it was this kind of like, whether it was having to get up, 2 hours earlier than you expected, or getting in a car accident in Mexico. Like, that was just a wild story. And then also, like, I know exactly where you were at when you were telling that story. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, that is not the place you want to be in an accident. Like, so there's just so much cool stuff. And, and again, and I'm going to come back to this book multiple times tonight. So just so everybody knows, and eventually they're going to be like, okay, I have to go out and buy this freaking book. Again, great gift for the holidays, even to yourself. But Chris, you've been silent for a long time, and I appreciate your patience. What are you drinking right now?
Okay, so we started off with talking about Kilhoman and JVS portfolio, and it just happens that I am also sipping on something from the JVS portfolio. And I wasn't even convinced that we were going to be able to get this in the United States, but the Penderyn, the Icons of Wales, this is the number 7, the Rhiannon. This is a lovely, lovely whiskey. I don't usually do this to Drew. I don't let Drew feel good about his products as often as I probably should. It's really just, it's like a brotherly thing where everybody tells Drew that his booze is good. And so I have to kind of call him an asshole and not let him think that he's as good as he is. Not that he even
let's just be clear. But, like, I just get to sell the stuff. I don't actually make any of it. So, like,
I don't want to give that to you.
Okay. Fair enough.
But this whiskey is fucking spectacular. I would say I don't tend to do this and like engender whiskeys, but this is an incredibly feminine whiskey. It is soft, it's floral, and yet it has this incredible spice halfway through the palate that just kind of like sends you for a little bit of an emotional trip. And I really love it. And then by the time you come back to it in the finish, it really develops this this new understanding of what the whiskey is. So that way, by the time you come back and you go for your first sip, the front of it is totally reintegrated into your consciousness in a different way. And I fucking love this whiskey. I'm really sad that I'm almost out of it. And I'm going to have to probably spend more money than I'm comfortable with to buy another bottle. But first one was really delicious.
It's a super fun whiskey. And I love the Icon of Wales series because so on this one, it's Rhiannon, which is like a folklore legend in Welsh, like folklore. But they've done like a whole bunch of different ones. Like the one that I really want is one that they did for their soccer coach a couple of years ago, because it's like this bright red bottle and it's so obnoxious and I love it. And anytime I ever have the privilege of talking to anybody from Penderyn, like I always ask for one. And I'm like, hey, by the way, if you get one of these bottles or if you come across this, get it for me. It hasn't worked yet, but I'm hoping to get to that point. But I think it's a lot of really, good stuff brought up about the Penderyn. They use that Faraday still, which is the combination of, copper pot and calm, which is what I think gives it those different dynamics to it. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to describe it as a feminine whiskey. Like I always call it like a gateway single malt because it does have some softer notes to it that tend to be a little bit more appealing. maybe to like your bourbon drinker or something like that. So this was a whiskey that as soon as we got it, like people were hitting me up left and right. They've been asking legitimately for well over 2 years to get this whiskey, and it was just awesome. And it came out of nowhere. Like so many things over the past 2 years where like, you just have no idea what's on a boat and how long it's been on a boat. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, we have this and it's dope. And you're like, oh, this is amazing. So I'm glad that you're drinking that one. That was a fun surprise for tonight. Cause I'm also looking at that bottle on my desk right now. So very easily could make the transition and bring that in.
Well, it was a fun surprise when you texted me and you were like, hey, guess what we have?
Right.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dope. Send me a case. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
It was certainly one of the easier ones. And also the packaging on it is really beautiful too. So we'll make sure to include some pictures of all the fun things that we're drinking for the Instagram and stuff like that. So no, good choice. Good choice. We're JVS strong right now, which is important.
I know.
You know?
Yeah. If you can't push yourself, then what are we doing here?
Yeah, so. And just to bring it home, and this was not planned at all. Just for the listeners at home, like everybody came by this organically. But I'm also drinking Kilchoman, and I'm doing the Machier Bay Cask Strength from last year. This was a really, really cool expression they did. So basically, they just took their flagship of the company is Machier Bay, which is going to be your standard vatting of bourbon barrels and a little bit of sherry barrels. But the difference here is that they went cask strength on this one. So it actually clocks in at 58.6%. And they have a couple of the sheep on the label, but they all have Santa hats on. So it was like a limited window that you could really like maximize sales on this bottle. But then unfortunately, initially, like people were kind of like, oh, it's just a gimmick because they're trying to do like a Christmas thing or whatever the case may be. And then people actually got to try it. They're like, hey, can I get more of that? I'm like, no, there was not that much. And you kind of scoffed at it originally. So yeah, I don't know if they'll do it again. They, at least, it might be on a boat somewhere, but as far as I know, they didn't do it this year. So this was kind of like a one-time deal, or at least as it goes. With Kilchoman, they always have like those things that kind of start off weird and then like, oh, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it now, and that's kind of like what I love about that distillery. And also what makes me so excited, Thad, for your single barrel, because, being able to, pick those things out and have something that's truly unique in a marketplace that is flooded with so many different options. It's something that you've kind of always done, like whether it's these barrel picks or whether for like the Armagnacs and things like that, or trying to figure out how Cuban rum is made. Like you're seeking these things out and you're trying to find these unique characteristics to it. So what would you say between like batches of mezcal, different barrels of rum and stuff like that, how many single expressions do you think you've been responsible for over the course of your career?
Ooh.
He's deep in thought.
This is a good one. Yeah.
This is a good one.
Probably around 100.
Jesus Christ. That's so much unique spirit brought to the table. I love it.
Yeah. A lot of it. I mean, a lot of it went into drinks. I mean, that was how we could move a lot of it. We were sort of in it. I mean, we're in that trap that that we're all in, was like trying to get us something single barrel and get it in at under, we were trying to get it in at under $30 a bottle so we could make drinks with it. So lots of young, like 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old stuff. So it's not like all of it was heart-stopping, beautiful old stuff, but it's just a lot of young, cool barrels for sure. And then a lot of older stuff too. But yeah.
So what does that personal library look for you now? I mean, were there bottles that you held on to, or is it like, were you really selective? Because I mean, obviously we all have ridiculous bottle collections, and you get to a certain point where you're like, this is dumb. I don't need this many bottles.
Every Thanksgiving or every dinner party, you just like bomb your guests.
Yeah. It's like, here you go. It's like, is it a special occasion? Like, yeah, it's Tuesday. Drink it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if there are civilians and they don't know, you really end up hurting them. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can relate. Maybe you can't. I don't know. But looking, that's the spirit we were talking earlier about, the spirits game and how it moves glacially, but then all of a sudden 10, 15, 20 years have passed. And, you look at a bottle that you have like a half of it, an inch left of it, and you know that that's completely gone and you'll never see it again. And so I wish I'd done a better job maintaining my home collection. I definitely don't have like samples of all the lots. I've got a lot of them. I'm looking at I've probably got like 30, you know what I mean? Different
Right.
ones, older ones, emotional favorites, and uh, and then there's stuff, that you wish you could, no one's importing, that you grab when you're over there. And they there are a lot of cool producers they just don't give a shit about us, and they make enough, they sell it, and they don't like the American market, or they don't want to deal with it, or whatever. They make a very small amount, and they've got their distributor in the EU, and they're done. You know what I mean? So I've got a lot of that stuff, like wish list stuff.
Totally.
How about you guys? How about you?
I mean, I think something that we've talked about on this podcast a lot is like the last thing that I ever want is to, get hit by a car and then be sitting on the road thinking to myself, like, oh, I'm really going to miss my wife and my kid. And why didn't I drink that bottle of booze? Like, I don't ever want to be in that position. So there's definitely things that have like lingered, and I do like have, like you said, like the emotional ties. They're not even necessarily things that are, that were uber expensive or anything like that either. Like an example of that would be like the Highland Park Valkyrie. That bottle means a lot to me because the tasting that I went to with Brian McGregor, who at the time was covering, who we can't get on the show to save our lives, even though he says he's our friend.
Really?
Like, unbului
That surprises me.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the last time I did ask him, he was like, they were just going through getting his kids into school and how nuts it was. And he like breaks down the whole day. And he's basically like, I'm just completely overwhelmed. School started yesterday. And I was like, fair enough. Like, fair enough. Like, we'll come back to you. But anyways, Brian's really great. And he represents the Edgerton, portfolio. And he was the first person to like really break down single malt whiskey to where I could like comprehend it and understand it. And it finally just all clicked with him. And so part of that tasting was also when they launched their Viking series, which, obviously looking back now, you're like, oh, that's a really great way to avoid age statements.
Right.
And the Valkyrie was just the one that I was like, this is dope. Like, I'm super into this. And so I still have this bottle, and it's a completely opaque bottle. So like, I know that there's not a whole lot left in it. And I'm just at this point now, it's like every pour could potentially be the last pour. And I just don't know when it's going to come. I don't know. Chris, do you have anything like that in your collection?
Oh man. I have some vintage bottles that I cracked open, and I know that they need to get finished relatively soon, but I don't have it in me to pull the trigger on some of those. Funny enough, I have one bottle that I refuse to open, and it's because I acquired it recently, and I know that I'm going to be able to get another one somewhat soon. But this one bottle, I don't want to crack open. It's the first edition of the Three Chambers. I don't want to open that one. I probably will never open that one. It's a really, really special bottle.
Which is so funny because in Thad's book, he talks about the process of the Three Chamber whiskey and apologizes to his readers because it's not going to be out for multiple years. But now it's out. It's here. And it totally lived up to all the hype, like, which is insane,
Insane. Yeah, it really did.
That I have we don't usually do this, but I have a question that it's been bugging me, and Drew and I have talked about this off air a little bit, and we haven't gone too much in depth because it's such an insane question, but I feel like if I'm going to ask anybody this question, it's going to be you. Do you think that there is a perfect
Scared.
a perfect spirit out there? Whether it be a brand, whether it be a genre, like a style, is there like a specific bottle that is just like utterly perfect for one reason or another? Is there something that like jumps out at you that you're like, yeah, this obviously is it, or anything? Open-ended
That's an
question.
it's an awesome question. I mean, I would answer it in a couple ways. I think there's eras, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm in my early 50s, so it's been like I remember like malts in the early 90s and before Diageo bought them all. Or we probably experienced it with tequila, like watching brands kind of fall apart, and it's like, what? This isn't what it used to be. And so there's kind of moments, you know what I mean? And I would say like we're coming. Obviously, I'm sure we'd all agree we're coming to the. I don't know if we're coming to the end, but we're at a kind of critical juncture of the agave moment, you know. So like right now, working on an article about about distillados versus mezcals. You know, the decision not to call things mezcal that's starting to happen, sort of like declassified wine. You know, so very very indie, very interesting, super like political charge. So it's a really cool moment, and those spirits are God, they're so fucking good still.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is just fermentation, that these wild fermentations that are just like filthy and crazy, and then that carries into the distillate. So I think like right now, like really small distillados are just like mind blowers. But I think that the great spirit, like if I had to choose one spirit, like the best version of it, it would be Scotch, because Scotch has so many moving parts, right? It's got the agriculture, it's got the malting, which of course introduces, you know, peat, and the manipulation of the sugar, fermentation, always interesting, though sadly a lot of people can't do interesting stuff for reasons of health, but yeah, agriculture, malting, fermentation. Of course, the aging game is just crazy in Scotland. There's all different kinds of stuff going on, and then regionalism. Though regionalism is largely dead in Scotland, as we know. Everyone's making stuff from Eastern European grain or Northern English grain, or it's very seldom. Like that's why I think we all dig that Isla, 100% Isla, is that it's like it's a grower producer spirit. So, and there's only, you know, you can count the scotches that are made that way on one hand. So
Right.
so when Scotch is like booming if every decision in Scotch is made right, it's just a mind blower. So there's this guy on the Isle of Lewis. His name's Marco, and he's one of these people. I've got like 3 bottles of his stuff, and it's Abengirig. I don't know if you've heard of it. I write about it in the book briefly, but it means blood, red river. And he makes, you know, he's just this one man band who flies to Spain and buys a couple barrels each year. He grows, he ferments, he malts in this tiny like kind of barbecue thing, and it's not like that hobbyist thing where so often you'll see someone who's super small and a hobbyist. You kind of have to get a certain scale for it to be good, I think, sort of like beer, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But anyway, he just like every decision is just mind blowing, from the water to the wild fermentation, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think when Scotch is on, it can't be beat. What
That's
do you
so
guys
cool.
think? I'm curious.
What a great answer. That's a mind-blowingly in-depth answer for being put on the spot, which is why I asked you. That's great.
Oh,
That's
I mean, I think
fantastic.
that, yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really tough. I mean, everything you brought up about mezcal, like I completely agree with. Like I firmly fall into the camp of letting everybody just do distillados. And it's interesting because even within my own portfolio, you know, like we have people who are doing distillados and are so anti the CRM, like they do things on their packaging as like an absolute fuck you to the CRM, which I love. And then I have other brands in my portfolio that are like brand ambassadors for the CRM, and it's interesting to see their arguments for it and stuff like that. So I really get to see both parts of it. But really, at the end of the day, it's like I think a lot of the narrative needs to change on how we view these guys, and I think it starts with like, you know, so often and rightfully so, like, you know, they're considered artists and, oh, we need to protect traditions and things like that. And this is something I've said before, but it's like, you know, you really need to look at a lot of these, you know, men and women as entrepreneurs. Like, this is what they are. And I think if people change their mindset towards that, they'd be a lot more open to being like, yeah, like, fuck these regulations. And there's a couple things in one of our later stories that, you know, kind of like adding these like nickel and dime certifications and stuff like that just don't make sense for the final product. It's kind of like, it's like, listen, as long as it's not going to kill you, like, let's bottle it and let's drink it, you know? So let's kind of go from there. But in terms of the perfect spirit, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. Like, I really love just well-made, you know, Scotch. And of course, talking about the 100% Islay, like, you know, it started with, you know, for me, it was like having that 100% Islay from Bruichladdich, right? And seeing kind of like what a huge difference that made. And then, you know, another person that I've had this conversation with, I have a tremendous amount of respect for, is like Robin Robinson, who talks about how there's no terroir in whiskey, but Provence is more probably appropriate for it. But then I drink something like the 100% Islay, and I'm like, how do you not think that this is completely driven by where this barley was grown? Like, this blows my mind that we're still talking about it. And then he says like a bunch of smart things. I'm like, okay, maybe you're right. Like, I don't know how to feel right now. So, you know, as much as, of course, like I want it to be, you know, like mezcal or more importantly rum. To me, it's like I just know that there's so many flaws in it, and there's also part of the charm of it, right? But I think that there's still a good balance that, you know, when something is perfectly executed, like to your point, like, yeah, I think I'm going to go with you with the Scotch one. Chris, what do you think?
I'm going to politely bow out, even though I asked the question. I think I've wrestled internally with this question extensively, to the point where I'm afraid I'm going to go insane. Do
you think you could make the case against Scotch? Like, now that we've both picked it, can you be like, this is why you're wrong?
That's a good question. No, but for a lot of the same reasons that you're suggesting, I think you could make the same arguments for Armagnac. The care, the estate grown, the manipulation of sugars and fermentation. I think a lot of those same arguments could be made for that. That being said, I mean, or at least not as often do you have like the aging game quite as on lock in Armagnac. I mean, you certainly do. Like, you certainly are coming across, 20-year, 15-year Armagnacs, but at least in the United States, like, the demand isn't quite there for it. And so we don't really get to experience quite as much of it, because the dope shit's going somewhere else. It's not coming to us. We have to seek it out.
Yeah.
Or it's just staying in France. Right. Whereas the American palate for Scotch whiskey, it's coming here, and the consumption, the pocketbooks, we're buying a ton of it, where it's, at least for Armagnac, it's not quite there. I'm sure you could make the same argument for cognac, but I'm a little bit more hesitant to do so, because of the sort of the bastardization of what cognac has become.
And there's some big cognac houses for sure.
And it's still fine. Like, they all have their, they have their criterion that they stick to for defining quality. I'm just not sure if I buy into that same criteria.
Yeah.
I would say, Chris, I would say that if I was going to recommend a spirit to buy right now, it would be Armagnac. Like that's the value out there for sure. You can get, 18, like that really sweet spot of like 18, 19 years old for Armagnac, grower producer spirits for like, $150 a bottle
Yeah.
retail. I mean, when you talk about whiskey, it's just so priced out. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's because, right. It's where it's market driven, which is fair,
Yeah.
and people deserve to get their money for producing something that's just incredible. But
Yeah, but
that same
yeah.
note with like you're saying, grower producer brandies that are just outrageously stunning, that just will blow your mind and be so confusing to your palate that you don't understand how it can be so fucking good. Because you've just never had anything that has those waves and those dips and the emotional roller coaster of drinking something so fabulous.
Well, and they continue to change, right? Okay, so last
Yeah,
question
yeah.
before we move on to the news stories, because we're definitely getting a little long on our quote unquote intro.
This is so fun, by the way.
Good. It was, it's funny, just a little behind the scenes, like, that was like, can I ask you guys questions? We're like, oh my God, yes. Like, can you please do that? But so Thad, we're just gonna leave it. You're the only one who's gonna answer this because me and Chris have talked about this extensively. But do spirits change in the bottle now, unopened? Do you think they continue to change at all?
I do.
We're in good company. We're very validated right now. So
yeah, for sure. You guys agree, right?
Yes, absolutely. No,
absolutely.
We are. It's just, it's sometimes people don't feel the same way. So,
and in particular, like good spirits, I mean, that's where like non-chill filtered good spirits, definitely.
Yes.
Before we moved on, I wanted to honor something you said earlier about like not sitting on stuff. Like I agree. It's like a bottle is like, it's like a song. It's a moment in time, and work through it, and like don't share it, pour it out, and move on. There's always something else, and the way they just kind of vanish, especially like single barrel stuff, the way it vanishes in time, it's just a very, very, very beautiful. You know what I mean? I really liked the way you talked about that.
It's one of the few times I can be romantic. I'll tell you that. Ask my wife; she knows. Okay. I think it's time for our opinions on facts that we heard from reputable sources. So I think the funny thing is, like, we've kind of already like really talked about this topic without actually talking about it in our first 42 minutes of this conversation.
Shit. Oh no.
Don't worry. Our most popular episode of all time is also our longest episode of all time. So so it's, we still have some time to knock out before we get to that place, but people, when it's a good conversation, people are into it. So hopefully people feel the same way about this. All right. So what we want to talk about is the fact that this little brandy-like object or item, cognac, their sales are stronger than ever. From October 2020 to October 2021, there was an increase of 23% over the past year. That's 226 million bottles came to the U.S. The U.S. is the biggest marketplace. They're trying to figure out like really what are all the different factors that are playing into this. But I throw it to you guys. So Thad, what do you think are the reasons for this like really ridiculous surge in cognac sales over the past year?
Well, I was in Cognac a month ago, and I can tell you what people are talking about there is Doucet, the Jay-Z cognac is exploding, and now they're, the way cognac works is there's all these small producers. The brands, they're not really producers. Martel, Remy, Courvoisier, they're just buying from people, chill filtering, putting caramel in it, and pumping it out at huge volume. So it's like there's it's running dry, and now apparently Otard, who's the house that bottles Douce, is now like paying more and trying to buy up all the brandies, and everyone's freaking out, and they're freaking out about the American market, and yeah, I don't think I don't think it's taking off because people see it as an agricultural spirit. uh, I
Dang it!
mean,
I was hoping for better. Like,
though, yeah, I don't want to be cynical. I mean, I love being cynical. I'm very cynical, but yeah, I mean, we know these are just such heavily manipulated spirits. They're distilled to a very high alcohol by volume. They're they're putting they're literally putting sugar and caramel, quantities of it that would surprise anyone, and chill filtering it to death. So you get it's just like the thing I always think, like if you put a little, like, often when I'm doing tastings, I'll bring a grower producer Armagnac or even a small cognac or whatever, and then I'll bring, like, a Hennessy VS or something, and like put a little on your hands, and you smell it, and it just smells like flat Coke. It's just that caramel coloring and the absence of any trace of the base ingredient. Like, it's not like a good Armagnac is wine like, and you get the acidity of the grapes, so I think like everything, it's marketing, and it's these people are artful producers. They're really able to control the apparatus and get something to people that's sweet. It's not challenging. It feels prestigious because it's mahogany colored, and then it's very well marketed. I don't know, I'm a big NBA fan, and I'm like, I cannot believe all the cognac ads right now. Multiple houses, you know what I mean? It's interesting. What do you guys think?
well, before we move on to our thoughts, like when being that you were just there, and
Mm.
in talking with some of these producers, I mean, is there, I mean, I don't know. I guess, like, is the overwhelming sentiment just kind of being like, well, I guess our private batches are null and void this year because there's no way we can say no to these prices that they're offering? Or is there, a bit of kind of like we're fighting back against it a little bit? I mean, I'm sure there's lots of differing opinions, but like, what was the sentiment that you were getting when you were actually there talking with these producers?
No, for sure, all of the above. That's a great question. There are people that have been like, I've been selling to Remy. My dad sold to Remy. They're very proud of the accomplishments of these houses, and their company. They're just ride or die. And then there are people that are like, fuck you. The big thing is like one of our favorite one of the people I bought the most barrels from, like the market's weird. Like right now, it's a seller's market, right? Like there's all this demand, so all of the, there's thousands, literally, I think there's a couple thousand small producers that are supplying um, all the houses, and right now they can, it's their market. But there have been years where it's like it's the buyer's market, and the houses are just setting the price. So in that respect, it's very agricultural. Like there can be these vintages where it's just like, you know what, we're going to give you half of what we gave you last year, and they can take it or not. And if they haven't been doing their own bottlings, they're trapped. So that there's that kind of like frustrated independent spirit, though very, 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 very few. And then there's a lot of people that like, I mean, cognac is prosperous, like it's very middle class, upper middle class, like Mercedes in the driveway, kids go to college, and that's why these brands, they engender a certain stability, because it's agriculture, and in the rest of the world, agriculture is so precarious. But here it's just like the money's good, and if you have a good relationship with the house, yeah, they can fuck you. But the fact is, especially when the market's growing the way it is, it's stability, and you can take a vacation. You can send your kids to school and whatever. And so those people will often do like kind of recreational. Yeah, I've got a little stuff under my own label, but it's just like, sort of the equivalent of the people that just sell stuff out of their tasting room here. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, a little bit more kind of like, yeah, it's just my side gig,
Yeah,
if that.
yeah, vanity project. Yeah.
Totally. Chris, what do you think? I mean, I think that's a pretty solid answer from Thad there, but I mean, are there, being in the store, I don't think that you're selling the Doucette, like that doesn't jive with your vibe. No. But like, I've actually heard from multiple of my accounts that are like started to hit me up for like the very few cognacs that I have. And like there are accounts that like surprised me, like when I heard that they were asking for cognac. And now it makes more sense because like, I mean, if any, obviously everybody knows how I feel about celebrity spirits. And so, I'm not terribly shocked that I was like, oh, Jay-Z has a cognac. Good for him. But like for you, are you seeing that in the store? Are they gravitating to more like cognacs and brandies, or what are you seeing?
No.
You have all the wrong ones.
I'm not saying that. I have people ask me a lot for Douce.
Have you given in yet? Are you able to get it? How about that?
I have not given in. I still have an affliction to making money.
Well, so that's totally the truth, Thad. Like it's so funny to watch all these decisions that Chris makes that make no money. It blows my fucking mind like every day, and it breaks my heart because I'm like, you could make money, and he's like, I don't want to, and I'm like, that's a weird way to pay your bills. So it's I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm just not.
You're not surprised. We don't sell Douce. We have other brandies that we push people to, and it's fine. It's still not taking off in our store. But
what's the product you're most ashamed of?
You
have?
Great question.
I'm not going to say that out loud on my podcast.
Dude, you can say Dick Brandy. That's fine.
I'm not ashamed of Dick Brandy. Not even a little bit ashamed of Dick Brandy. We sell a lot of Dick Brandy, and I'm good with it.
Yeah. It's an Armenian brandy that I sell that comes in the shape of a big dick. So it is unreal.
And I have it front and center in the store when you walk in.
Yeah.
I have a stack of dicks.
I sell a lot of it
in the store.
I sell quite a bit. It's pretty great.
Like it's suggestive of a big dick. It's phallic,
or
it's literally
it's
a representation of a big dick
with very steroidal balls. Like the balls are very tiny.
I'll send you a pic of it. It's incredible. And then the other thing is that I have friends of mine who have become big fans of the Adam brandy, is how it's known. They gift it to a lot of people and things like that. And what we have discovered is that there are multiple models for the Adam brandy. So they cater to the world. There are multiple shapes and sizes and preferences of the Adam brandy. So
that's glorious.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, and if you can, you put down that bottle, and then it becomes like your most glorious decanter that you have on your shelf after.
That's right. That's right.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
I'm intrigued.
But to get back to our story on hand, I find the rise of Douce though a little validating. Drew, you and I talk pretty often about wanting people to drink grape spirits, right? And while people won't be getting an authentic experience through Douce, they are opening the gate though, right? They're sticking their foot through. They might be holding it back on the on the sidewalk, but they're at least willing to dip their toe in, even if it's even if it's for celebrity owned branding. And if
Right.
we can get them there and drag them through the gate into drinking other things, the experience is only beneficial for them at that point in time, right? It only goes up from there. So I I'm I feel a little bit of validation on this, because you and I have been going
Hmm.
back and forth trying to get, trying to talk about getting people in, dragging more people in, getting people, not away from bourbon, but like adding a little complexity into their lives, just to mix it up every once in a while. So I am, while we know that the general public consumes on brands, they'll say, hey, the amount of times I've been asked, and I'm sure Thad's been asked, like, hey, do you have Jack Daniels? No, sorry, we don't have Jack Daniels. But I've got, George Dickel, sure. Here's another Tennessee whiskey. And they're like, I don't know. Do you have Hennessy? You're like, well, wait a minute. How does this work out?
What are we
And
doing
it's like,
here?
it's really just because it's what people are comfortable with, right? It's like, it's a name
Yeah.
brand, and that's the Rolodex that they're going through. But if you can stop that Rolodex from spinning for half a second, which doesn't happen very often, but if you can get someone to just like stop that Rolodex and go, hang on, hit the pause sign, let's look at this for half a second instead of maybe this one. Why don't you try this one? And, or try this one twice. And then if you're sitting at my bar, why don't you try this one also? And if you don't like it, that's fine. Dump it out or I'll drink it, but go ahead, give it a shot.
Well, I think,
Get it?
yeah, and I think that's a, and for sure if you can capture that, people, and it does make me think that there's one other factor that I believe is at play, and it would make sense timeline wise as well. So if you look at how the pandemic has gone down and where a lot of people's spending has gone into, right? Like, I mean, Chris, this better than most. Is like you have a lot of people who came into the spirits world who had 2 to 3 bottles in March of 2020, and now they have 300 bottles. Like, it's just insane. And I feel comfortable saying that because I know multiple people who really accelerated in that way. And that's just
What's
here
up,
in
Jared?
Sacramento, right? So it's Jared, former guest Jared, another good buddy, Brandon Leon. Like, the list goes on and on and on. But I think what happened in something that Thad, that you talked about earlier, is that, whiskey or at least in terms of like bourbon, has become prohibitively expensive, right? And it's kept a lot of people, kind of out of the game because they simply can't keep up with the Joneses. And that's unfortunately how a lot of spirits build and things like that, is that it's like, oh, this one's really popular. And instead of being able to get it at, that price point that should be at anywhere from $30, $40, $50, like these things are skyrocketing to 200, 300, 400. And, I think to your point earlier, when you're talking about like, you can get really quality, 18-year-old Armagnacs that are going to be $150. And the thing is like, whereas somebody might not understand or fully comprehend like the difference between Armagnac or Cognac or brandy just in general, what they do understand is age statements. And if they could put something on their bar that's 18 years old, 21 years old, 25 years old, it doesn't matter really what's in that bottle, because the perception, and again, this is taking the ego-driven decisions that are made at a bar top every single day and putting that into somebody's home and being like, how do we get people excited about this? Like, well, you can own this, this XO Cognac or this XO, this or that, and like all these different ones. And so I think people are looking for ways to spend this money and like going after things. So like another great example of this would be like extra añejo tequilas, right? People cannot keep them in stock. And the garbage that is flying out of stores right now is unfucking believable. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. If it says extra añejo on it, people have started to learn like, oh, that means kind of like this range. Like, this is the oldest it can be, because obviously people, unfortunately always equate age with quality, even though we all know that's complete bullshit. But I think that is also contributing to it. It's like where people can go out and they can get these things. And so, your friends come over to your house like, oh, well, do you want this 18-year-old Armagnac? You're kind of like, well, I don't know what the fuck Armagnac is, but 18 years old seems like it's a pretty old spirit. I know that. So yes, I will have it. And now they're kind of feeding these different things. So I think there's a lot of those that are contributing to it. And you would think by the time that if we're doing this year scale from October 2020, like we're full blown into the pandemic, right? People's collections are blowing up. Bourbon stocks are running low. The Pappy jumped from, was it 23 was pretty much like $2,300. By that point, because I had a couple buyers going after it, it was up to like 36, 37, which is mental, right? That and I had people paying it. I had customers kind of like, if you can find it for me, I'll pay it. I'm like, you are insane, but yes, okay, sure, whatever it takes. But obviously not everybody can afford to do that. So what can you do? Okay, my big splurge bottle is going to be an 18-year-old bottle of Armagnac or Cognac or whatever the case may be. So I think that also contributes, especially timeline-wise. Like, hey, things have gotten more expensive, but that has stayed pretty standard. Like the prices on those things have not skyrocketed. Really, bourbon and tequila, I think, are the ones that have taken the biggest jumps over the past year in terms of like price for stuff, because they just people couldn't get it, and then you start playing the agave crisis game and stuff like that, and sales reps feed that one line to the store owner who doesn't know where tequila comes from, and they just pump that out, and it's just the perpetual cycle goes. but yeah, so hey, I think those are all great theories on why Cognac, but I think at the end of the day, it's all Jay-Z's fault. So thanks, Jay. Okay, so our next story is actually about the ever-changing status of direct-to-consumer shipping when it comes to alcohol, cocktails to go, and stuff like that. The most recent additions to that are Arizona and Iowa have now added themselves to the direct-to-consumer alcohol sales, which brings the tally up to 20 states. So, before the pandemic starts, like, you really don't have too many things that are in place for like to-go cocktails or bars being able to sell. Most states started to change those in order to help keep restaurants alive and bars alive, to very mixed results. But now you have 20 states that are doing that. And they vary, like most things do in every single state, on what you can actually get away with. And I saw, one of the states that's not on there is California. So yay for us. These changes are not permanent yet, but it does seem like we're moving the ball closer to getting to that point. But for example, in Arizona, they have approved cocktails to go, but it also requires a special permit, and that you have to pay $2,500 a year in addition to your liquor licenses to be able to sell cocktails to go. So I guess my question is for you guys, and and again, Thad, you're still in that part of the industry to a certain degree, and then Chris, you have a long history. It's like, I mean, Thad, looking at that now, like if you had the ability to look at any one of your the bars and restaurants that you've ever been involved with throughout your career, it's like, do you think there's enough of a value add to do cocktails to go while also paying an additional licensing fee to do so?
Well, I mean, all I can say is like a number of people, I just use code. I mean, I just kind of pulled the plug and started over. I mean, the industry was already. We've all been kind of scrambling to figure out how to make this work. And a kind of move that I was in the process of making was just totally accelerated by COVID, which is, I mean, I want to be more like Chris and be more of a retail. So what we're gonna have one spot. It's gonna have a 47 and a 21, and we're gonna start doing DTC of these small independent bottlings, sort of, I don't want to say collectible, but just limited, and not like limited so expensive, but just kind of trotting out releases and doing DTC, and that's very easy in California, and then there's about 8 other states I think now where you can just start shipping from California, and then the market's just kind of, it's like the Wild West. Like in exploring, and Chris, you may have experience with this also, but exploring like fulfillment companies and third parties there are all of these companies that are just illegally shipping booze to every state in the union. Like,
Yeah,
just
don't put
straight
your
up.
logo on the don't put your logo on the box.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you
Yes.
that tip right now.
Yeah.
Don't put your logo on the
Yeah.
box.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the good news is, like you said, we're in California, and the California market is the biggest market. So, I mean, it's gonna take a while to outgrow that market. But the idea is once, outgrow that market, to figure out inroads to other markets. But yeah, I'm very interested in DTC. I'm very interested I mean, I watch like K&L just buy barrels and flip them, and that's what I'm interested in doing at a smaller scale, and just kind of the cuts being like agriculturally driven, grower producer, just putting more of a. I think there's room. We know there's more and more independent bottlers, so each one has their own kind of take, and that's our take. And then we got the 47, so we'll have one bar where we're making drinks, and yeah, we'll be selling cocktails to go also, because you kind of you got to hit it from as many angles as you can right now,
Right. And so,
so
and what
especially
that
in the
is
Bay,
referring
it's
to,
very difficult.
yeah, what that's referring to is like different license numbers and things like that. So,
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. That's what it's, especially when we're, over an hour into like a heavy industry conversation, it's like, we all know what you're talking about, but someone at home might be like, what the hell is a 21? What's a 47?
Yeah.
So these are just different types of licenses that you can get that just allow you to, like, okay, you're going to be able to sell like as a retailer, or you're going to be able to sell cocktails. And so that's what all these different ones, and you can actually go to the ABC website for California and you can read all of them. They're super boring, but I think
what fucked me up in this article was realizing that different states call them different numbers and by different
Yes.
things. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Arizona calls them like series, and I was like, oh wait, no. I was like, no, I have to figure this out.
Yeah,
and I don't want to go to Arizona alcohol beverage control and figure out what they call them all, because I'm sure
well,
that they're all.
I think it
equivalent,
was. Yeah, it's all like really interesting because obviously different states have different rules and kind of what you're abiding by, and then the way that shipping in the United States works with alcohol, like that, to your point, is that a lot of what's being done right now is super super illegal, and it's dumb because a lot of these laws obviously date back to prohibition and are kind of archaic and really really are not helping people. It's like, because if you're stuck in a state that's state controlled and you can't get the things that you want access to, like it's a real bummer. Like, here in California, we almost get everything, and it's amazing. So we don't understand how easy that we have it. Like, I remember being introduced to like the secondary market for tequila back before like the big tequila explosion, but kind of being like, this is so weird. And then somebody comments is like, oh, you sound like you're from California where you get everything. You're like, ooh, that's exactly what the case is. So yeah, I think that this will be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But one of my other observations that at least I made over the past year and a half is that you had a lot of restaurant owners and bar owners who had, especially I'm going to speak specifically for California, in California, who had this ability, but it almost like they found the option to sell bottles, and like the to-go cocktails I think went a little bit better, but like selling full-blown bottles like you can in California right now, like, seemed to break a lot of people's brains. Like, they just couldn't wrap their mind around it, whereas it's kind of like, I was like, well, I don't know how to do this. It's like, you add 30%. Like, that's all you have to fucking do. Like, this is not hard. Like, I had one guy literally say to me, like, well, talk to my GM about it. He's better at math. And I just was like, this is not hard math. Like, I am not good at math, and I can do this equation, with these, like, these constant changes. And again, we don't know what California is going to officially do. It seems like they're moving more towards at least to go cocktails. I don't know how they're going to be with like selling full bottles, and then also like the full blown, because there's two arguments for direct to consumer, where we still kind of go through the 3-tier system. So like that, you get your place going, you bring this stuff in through a distributor, then you sell it to the consumer. But there's also talk of suppliers being able to sell directly to consumers and just bypassing all distribution altogether. And there's some people who, of course, are, majorly in favor of that. typically big companies who can afford to have big sales teams and stuff like that. But just, what are your impressions of that? I mean, you're kind of shaking your head at like, I don't, you don't want to see that, but like, seeing a directly sales from supplier to consumer, like, do you see that being a good thing, bad thing, or what?
I mean, I think it's just the direction it's been heading in for a while. I mean, I think what we're going to see is you're going to be able to go to the McAllen website and order, and they'll ship directly to your door, and it'll be through a third party
Right.
fulfillment company, and that's just it's inevitable. And so it's going to be like any other retail that like you said that archaic three-tier thing is going to, there's workarounds already in process. And I think the way the market's going is these big companies, they have so much pull that they're going to be able, so it's going to, it'll be more like, going to the Hermes or the Patagonia or the whatever. It's just, these brands are just going to be even more titanic, and you're just going to get on their website, and they'll ship directly to you. And the whole distribution model is gonna as we know it, I think is gonna disappear. But that'll create even more of a need for, dare I say, boutique or niche retailers like Chris, where people, there's got to be some alternative. You know what I mean? So like mindful curators and retailers are going to be more valuable than ever, I think.
Chris, I think you need to run with that tagline of mindful curator, because that's the best way I've ever heard your store described.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I've been talking with you for way too long about this.
that feels a little validating, which is nice because I've been down on myself for a while. So thanks, Dad. You've built me up a few times during this conversation, which is great.
I'm into you.
Right. It's funny because we mentioned last week I'm opening a restaurant, and well, what we didn't get into
I'm sorry.
is he's
an idiot. I don't know what to tell you.
You built me up enough. I had to like come down a couple notches. It's the only place I feel comfortable in this world. The reason that I'm doing it is I'm so terrified by the laws that are changing in California. I think it was Assembly Bill 391. Is that the one that we were talking about? I believe so. Assembly Bill 391 is the bill that was introduced, that made it through Assembly. Bar none. Not a single assemblyman voted against it. Made it through Senate. Not a single senator voted against it. It is sitting on Newsom's desk as of right now, 100% approval. Just waiting for him to sign it, which should be happening any day now. And it is taking so many of these COVID responses to keeping the restaurant industry alive and making them permanent, at very least until 26. And there are no carve outs for retail. It's giving all the power to Type 48 licenses, which are restaurants, to slowly, I think the point of it, from my understanding, is to close the gap, because there are too many license types out there. And I think the ultimate goal is to get rid of entertainment licenses, to get rid of liquor only licenses, and just have one liquor license, and just try to like make it as streamlined as possible. But seeing that is through the governmental point of view, knowing that it, like, not to have everybody freak the fuck out, probably taking like 15 years to get there. And so the reason I'm opening a restaurant is because restaurants can sell booze to go. They can operate as bottle shops now. So what's the point of me just owning a bottle shop if I can own a bottle shop and also get people to taste it and give them food and provide a good service and show them a good time in a space where I could do that, but not at the bottle shop legally, right? So I'm terrified that people, other business owners will figure out how to do the very, very simple math, or that, John Taffer will go on national television and tell all Californians that why aren't they doing this? They're losing all this money. And then all of a sudden the handful of places that might have been a little bit of a competition to me, now every single restaurant in the world is my competition, and they're better suited to, at least logistically, to doing their job. Whereas I have to just stand there with a bottle and go, look at this one. It's good. I promise. The name of my store is Good Bottle. So it's a good bottle. You buy it. It's good. You like? And that's it. It was sheer terror, really, that made me really, really want to open up a restaurant. So that way I still had a leg to stand on. So that way I didn't go bankrupt and then didn't have a leg to stand on when trying to open another business.
No.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm keeping a 47. I totally agree with you, actually. I don't think we know for sure where it's going, and I'm going to have a 21 and a 47. I definitely, I don't want to miss the opportunity, to miss the change in the market. No, I think that's sensible when you put it that way.
One of the few times he's pulled that off. Good job, Chris.
Hey man, blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. But in terms of this though, I find the sort of the conversation about DTCs and shipping across state lines very fascinating. I think anybody who spent any amount of time in this industry actually dealing with like the legal side of it ends up going bald, like me and like Dad, because a lot of it just doesn't make sense. And I think you end up in this really weird realm of like all of a sudden talking about states' rights, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it's a weird part of the conversation that all of a sudden, like it like lightweight makes sense, but then all of a sudden you realize that like it makes sense within a bubble and within a certain context, and you understand at very least like the intent behind it, but the practice and the reality of the situation and how far out of whack it's become. I think like what that's saying, like these third party shippers and whatnot, it is all just a reaction to it, because it's just gone so far out of whack that your everyday consumer who just want to get something cool in their house, and it's impossible to do. I think all of this is coming to an end. And I don't know how quickly, if we're looking at 50 years from now and finding some sort of like federal regulation that just finally puts an end to it. And, how, God, if we could get back to a place where that's the federal politics, that'd be great. That's what everybody's arguing about, being able to get their whiskey or not being able to get their whiskey. It'd be nice to get there.
That would be a nice change.
Yo.
You know who's dope? Them over there.
Okay, now it's time for my favorite part of the show every single week, and this is where we are going to tell you dope people to follow. It could be their Instagram accounts, Facebook pages, dope books like By the Smoke and the Smell by our current guest right here. So again, one of our former dope follows. They could be podcasts, movies, all kinds of fun stuff. So with that said, Thad, who is your dope follow this week?
Yeah, I guess I'll say a podcast. Like I said, I'm an NBA fan, and there's this podcast called Cookies Hoops, which is a cool mix of it's very New York identified. It's a painter and a writer, guy that has written a lot for the Times, and they talk a lot of pop culture. They sort of talk for half the show about pop culture, and then they talk NBA, and the two kind of blur together in a really pleasant way. It's sort of like the way you've talked about this pod. I think a good pod is just a good conversation, and these guys have chemistry, and they generally don't have guests. They just have a really, really good conversation. So Cookies Hoops, I would definitely recommend.
Nice. Check it out. Chris, who's your dope follow?
I'm doing a throwback because I rediscovered them recently, and I see that you have liked all the things that I've rediscovered recently, and then have also been sharing them, Drew. We're going way back, because I rediscovered this one because I it occurred to me as an epiphany this week. I was like, hey, I wonder what these guys are doing and if they're still doing a thing. And turns out they are, and it's even better than it ever was. And that's bad lip reading on Instagram and YouTube. It is phenomenal, and they've gotten so much better at doing it. And it is so much fun. And the new bad lip reading from Dune, incredible. I love it. It's great.
It's so ridiculous. Like, and I'll be honest, I like fought bad lip reading because it got like really hot, like to the point where, where I like the contrarian in me came out, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not watching that because everybody else likes it. And then
that's what I call the Green Day effect.
Yeah, that could totally that's it. And then and then there's just like the guy who plays the main character in Dune, like he like drives me nuts because like he's just made comments about like his acting career that just make him sound like a total like disconnected douchebag, and bad lip reading just obviously makes him look so dumb. And so it's like I ended up going down the rabbit hole, I want to say yesterday or the day before, where I watched so many, and I like went back to his original post, and you can see kind of the progression of how this person gets better at making these videos. And so yeah, I think that's such a great pick, because like the new Dune bad lip readings are incredible. Like they're so funny.
Yeah. Timothy Chalamet takes himself a little seriously.
Oh my God, that's his name. Yeah, he's he's the worst. Although I did like see a clip that he was on SNL, I believe, recently, and he was being pretty ridiculous on it. He did a sketch with Pete Davidson, and he looked really dumb in it. And I was like, okay, that's helping, but like you still have made a lot of comments in your career. It's like, easy, bro, you're a fucking actor. Like you're not saving lives here. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. So that's my 2 cents on that guy. Okay, so my dope follow this week is actually like a little news source on Instagram, and it's called Ride the News. And basically what they do is they take like 4 topics, and they just give you bullet points on kind of like what's going on with like that situation. And I don't want anybody to think that this gives you license to argue about these top stories. Okay. Like this is not enough information to have an educated conversation on it, but it's enough so where you're just not completely ignorant of what's going on in the world. And so it's little bullet points. Like I said, it's called Ride the News. They cover everything, like whatever is topical at that time. They just break it down. It's a picture, 4 to 5 bullet points. You get the gist. You're kind of like, yep, that's dumb. I can move on with my life now. Or, ooh, I need to look more into this. And as someone who doesn't really care for the news at all, it's been a great way to kind of stay on, at least somewhat informed of what's going on. But again, not enough information to start a Facebook fight. So please, that's my warning label on that.
I mean, you're asking people to consume more information and say less. I think that's a pretty steep call right there, buddy.
I don't know, man. Just stay in your lane and drink some Armagnac. That's all I got to say. Like that's my PSA for today.
That's the name of this. That's the name of this damn episode, I think.
Yeah. That's it. Those are some pretty dope follows. I like those. Those are good this week.
I'm excited for your 2. I'm already loading them up.
The music for the Good Bottle Podcast is orchestrated by Leon and Chase Moore and produced pretty damn well by us 2 guys. Before we go kill these bottles that we've been drinking, we ask that if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review.
It makes a huge difference, everybody. Please leave that 5-star review. Share it with your friends. Thad is another addition to a great lineup of guests that we've had. We have some really cool things coming up for you guys. So check it out, share. And if you ever want to be a guest, let us know. We want to talk to you. We have fun with this. You can follow us on our Instagram or Facebook at The Good Bottle Podcast, or on our personal accounts. Mine is DGarrison6. Chris is Chris Sinclair. Thad, where can they find you? I know you're not big on the social media, but you do somewhat pop up on it every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Thad Vogler, ThadVogler.
Nice. And where can people read your the different articles that you put out?
Yeah, they're all on Punch. So yeah, done. Yeah, I did about 4 articles during COVID on Punch, and they can all be found online there. And get the book, as was said. Great Christmas gift. And actually, I got a stack of them. If anyone wants to email me, thad@baragricole.com, or DM me on Instagram, happy to sign a copy and send you one, and you can Venmo me.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Everybody should definitely do that. I mean, and again, and I know that I've talked about this multiple times, but it's like, I read one of Thad's articles and I was like, this guy is like super dope, and we see things all the same way. And then I read the book, and and everybody knows about my method in terms of reaching out to people that I like have a tremendous amount of respect for. And it's like, it's getting drunk and then texting them or messaging them in any way that like it could be like an info contact sheet. And I'll be like, this is how I'm getting a hold of this person. But I love this book so much. It's such a beautiful just letter to those really single agricultural products that exist out there, and it's such fun storytelling as well. So please, if you have any interest in, and I don't take this comparison lightly, and I don't want to put too much pressure on it, but it's like, if you were a fan of somebody like an Anthony Bourdain who really got to get like inside of these different cultures and really got to experience the people, this is Bourdain adjacent. This is what that is. And again, I understand the pedestal that puts it on, but I feel very comfortable doing that. And I think, again, it's Bourdain adjacent. It's a little bit boozier, a little bit more hangovers potentially. I don't know. We'll see. Which is hard to believe, right, with Bourdain. But yeah, check it out. It's super good. And if you can get a signed copy, like, come on, guys, we just gave you the plug. Let's make it happen. So there's my last soapbox on that. You can also visit our Etsy shop, and you can buy yourself a 100% celebrity agave free shirt. We have some that went out last week, and we're going to be getting some modeling pics soon. So Sean, don't let us down. We're looking forward to getting that.
I can't wait to see those pictures.
Yeah, he's going to be wearing it to his, to a work meeting, which I'm very, very excited that's happening. And then you could also, if you want to throw us some shekels every once in a while, you can check out anchor.fm/goodbottlepodcast.
And if you would like for us to cover a story, or if you're working for a brand that would like to be featured, please email us at thegoodbottlepodcast@gmail.com. And
as a reminder, you can drink one of these bottles. You can get the Rhiannon still at the Good Bottle Shop.
That's right.
And then Thad's barrel pick from Kilhoman, you'll be able to get at his shop eventually. But go check out thegoodbottleshop.com. It's amazing. There's great bottles on there too. Go support, small business, and, keep Chris barely alive with making money. Let's force making money upon him. That's all I got to say. But that's all we got, guys. So thank you for tuning in. Thad, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
This was incredible, man.
I really enjoyed it.
Good. You hear that first. We have been verified by one of our all-time favorites. So we're actually, this is the last episode of the podcast. I'm done. We peaked.
You're good. You're so good. You're so good.
We're out of here.
I happen to know you. I've been watching you drink, so I know you've been drinking.
Yeah, well, it's coming out now, right? So
beautiful.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much for
cheers.
We'll see you guys again soon.
Right on. Thanks, fellas.